Here's everything you might have missed in Andor Episode 9. Welcome back, Cassian Fandors, to our weekly breakdown of Andor. The 9th episode of the season, titled Nobody's Listening, offers maybe the most chilling look at the Empire yet. We're going to break it all down for you in just a moment, but to do so we have to spoil the latest episode of Andor. So if you're not up to date, leave now while you still can.
Let's go.
Okay, let's get into it, shall we? As the title suggests, everyone's on the hunt for something, but no one's listening to them. Cassian's hunting for information to properly plan his prison break from Narkina 5, Mon Mothma's appeals to the decency of the Senate go completely ignored, and Cyril's on the hunt for a gold star for being a very good boy indeed in the creepiest way possible. Is he addicted to getting dunked on or something? I mean, it sure seems like it. Not to kink shame, but shame on him for like 1,000 other reasons. This is also an episode full of unexpected revelations, uneasy alliances, and terrible truths coming to light. The episode begins back on Ferrix, with Dedra Meero interrogating Bix about Cassian's whereabouts, twisting the knife about how easily she broke Salman Pak. That's the man who ran the fractal radio unit that Bix used to contact Luthen. Apparently, Pak was recruited 2 years ago by Clea or another agent at a separatist meeting on Jandora. If that sounds familiar, that's because Jandora was a planet that used to function as a black market for weapons in the Star Wars The Old Republic game. Bix, however, has had much more contact with these mystery rebels who are at the center of Dedra's Pepe Sylvia conspiracy board. Dedra then hands Bix over to the sociopathic Nazi doctor, Dr. Gorst, who immediately violates the Space Geneva Convention with his copy of Now That's What I Call Children's Screams, Volume 1. This latest bit of cruelty and psychological warfare from the Empire combines the Ludovico technique from A Clockwork Orange with Guantanamo Bay. The torture session itself begins with a grisly callback to the original Star Wars. The way the scene cuts away from Bix's screams with a door slamming shut and Imperial boots marching past is framed identically to when Darth Vader's torturing Princess Leia at the outset of A New Hope. By the end of this torture session, Bix looks like she's been through absolute hell. She's drenched in sweat, barely conscious, and her breathing is ragged. The ISB's apparently only keeping her alive so she can help identify Axis. The overeager Captain Tigo, though, on the other hand, decides to publicly execute Pak to send a message to the citizens of Ferrix. Now, given how the Imperials publicly hanged Cassian's adoptive father Clem in a similar fashion, this could be what ignites a powder keg of rebellion on Ferrix based on shots we see in the trailer of citizens, including Pak's son, clashing with Imperials. With Bix imprisoned and Marva getting sicker by the day, you just know that Cassian's going to have to make an ill-advised trip home to Ferrix and hopefully make some use of those secret tunnels beneath the hotel that Marva mentioned last episode. Now, before we delve into the cell block tango going on in Narkina 5, let's take a detour to Coruscant. Dedra reveals exactly which beans Bix spilled. They got a list of all the gear that's come through on Ferrix, including a targeting unit associated with a rebel cell operated by Maya Pei. Now, if you remember, she was derided as a neo-Republican by Saw Gerrera in the previous episode when Luthen was trying to unite the clans. Most importantly, Bix revealed that Cassian is connected to whatever went down on Aldhani because he returned to Ferrix flush with cash. Dedra's assistant then remarks on Cassian's lack of facial hair, which is the smoking gun in this instance, which makes us wonder, was that shave and a haircut really worth it? The ISB's real MVP this episode, though, does seem to be Dr. Gorst, who tortures yet another poor bastard to extract valuable information. This time, it's a rebel pilot who runs with Anto Krieger's crew. Now, if you recall, Krieger's the leader of a group attacking the power station on Spellhouse. That's the whole reason Luthen tried to get Saw Gerrera to help in the first place. The pilot was en route to Kafrene, which first appeared back in Rogue One. Kafrene was a mining colony to strip asteroids of rare metals and minerals, but it was also where Cassian went to investigate Imperial shipments of kyber crystals and where he first learned about the existence of the Death Star from his informant, who he promptly killed. And on Andor, it may well be where the Empire first learns of who's really fomenting these pockets of rebellion.
So,
that is, if their trap is successful. While maybe not quite as unsettling as torturing someone using children's screams or using someone's sick mother as bait to lure them out of hiding, Cyril's wet-eyed, breathless ambush of Dedra Meero in front of the ISB is chilling in its own way.
Have you been waiting out here?
Yes.
Although this tall adult baby wants to pursue his dream of bringing Cassian to justice, the way that he stalks Dedra outside her workplace and his following monologue are genuinely unhinged.
Are you stalking me?
I know you work here, and I come sometimes to see if I'll see you.
I fully expect Cyril to either become one of the deadliest assets in the ISB's arsenal, or to do something so phenomenally stupid he winds up getting even more people killed. The real question, though, is just what exactly is in his private box anyway? More clone trooper action figures?
Been in my private box. I have ways of knowing.
Now, speaking of fraught family life and poor professional prospects, things are not going well for Mon Mothma, who's fighting a losing battle in the Senate. As she attempts to rally votes and discuss Imperial overreach, she's either shouted down by bootlicking cowards, or people simply leave the chamber one by one. The Overton window is shifting towards a fascistic point of no return, which Mon Mothma realizes deep down. It's why she's secretly helping to organize the rebellion after all. But still, it's depressing to see as the people in that chamber ignore their duty to their citizens who sent them there in favor of kowtowing to overbearing authority and debasing themselves further. Back at home, Mon has a surprise visitor, her cousin who she hasn't seen in well over 6 months. As it turns out, Mon Mothma's mystery cousin is Vel, the leader of the rebel mission on Aldhani. This revelation also gives a surprising context to Cinta's remarks about Vel being a spoiled rich girl. She's clearly the product of immense Chandrillan wealth from the East Egg Mothmas. The scenes with Vel are particularly potent in how they highlight how deeply committed she is to the cause, while Mon is having a moment of doubt. It's a nice parallel to how Cinta reminded Vel of what they're fighting for back on Ferrix. But seeing Mon's daughter Leda and her slimy husband Perrin treat her with such open disdain and contempt is heartbreaking, especially in light of what she's really fighting for. And while Vel goes off to keep fighting the good fight in the field and living the life of a spoiled rich girl for a little bit, Mon is trapped here in her gilded cage. It's something that's made painfully clear by the lonesome solitary framing after Vel leaves. But Mon doesn't have time to be lonely. There's always another fire to put out, and in this case, it's finding a Chandrillan banker with treasury relationships and a book of business that's incomprehensibly huge. The only person who fits such a bill is apparently someone that Mon finds morally repulsive, Davos Skolden. He's the wealthiest thug of them all. And it's exactly this kind of backroom politicking and deal-making that one would expect from a member of the Galactic Senate. It also feels extremely in writer Beau Williman's wheelhouse, given that he was the driving force behind the US version of House of Cards. And last but not least, folks, it's time to talk about what might be the darkest storyline in the entire episode, the slow realization of what's really happening at the prison on Narkina 5. Cassian and the other prisoners continue to clock major details for their escape plan, like how the elevator used to bring new inmates into the floor is not wired and can be stopped halfway down. What exactly the inmates are building here is still left deliberately vague. It could still be symbolic in that they're literally building cogs in the Imperial war machine, or as many of you mentioned in the comments, they could be constructing components for the Death Star.
That's a bit of a stretch.
Honestly, it doesn't really matter what they're building. It's more about what this represents. As Cassian tells Kino later on, all they need to do is turn this floor on twice a day and keep their numbers rolling. Why bother listening to us? We're nothing to them. Melchi's right, we're cheaper than droids and easier to replace. Then things take a turn for the terrifying when all of the power in the building cuts out. And as we learn later, it cut out because of the raw power needed to murder an entire cell block's worth of inmates with their electric floors. 100 men killed without question. So why were they summarily executed? Because the truth got out that when you finish serving your sentence, you don't get to go home. You're simply moved to another part of this THX 1138-ass prison. And if you don't get executed, your only other option is to be like poor Olaf, work yourself to death and hope that a medtech euthanizes you after having a massive stroke so you're no longer suffering. It's one of the single bleakest moments in all of Star Wars, and that's really saying something. But it's also appropriately radicalizing for someone like Kino. He bought into the Imperial lies hook, line, and sinker, and seeing what happens here, it crushes him. And this moment suggests that Olaf's death will not be in vain, because as the episode ends, Kino finally relents and gives Cassian the info they need about the guards. And it's hard not to feel a surge of adrenaline when Kino finally says those 4 magic words.
Never more than 12.
Folks, escape is in the air, and next week's episode is basically guaranteed to be the same kind of white-knuckle barn burner that episode 6 was with the mission on Aldhani. It's also the same kind of yeah, pick me up we need after seeing so much abject misery across the galaxy far, far away. This episode alone, there were so many grim examples of both the Empire's ruthless efficiency and their blasé ineptitude all in the span of an hour. It's a difficult tonal needle to thread, but somehow Andor manages to do it week after week. Anyway, folks, there you have it. That's everything that we spotted and wanted to highlight in this week's episode of Andor. This show is truly firing on all cylinders, and it's some of the savviest Star Wars storytelling in a long time. Now, hopefully they can continue this trajectory as we head into the final 3 episodes of the season, because damn, it feels so good to be genuinely excited about Star Wars again. Anyway, we'll be back next week with another breakdown for you, but for now, tell us, what did you think of this week's episode? Did you spot anything that we missed?
No. I suppose not.
Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, make sure you stay tuned to Nerdist.com.